out of Fort Wayne is getting a lot of attention, and it's one that some may find disturbing.
Really just sad all the way around. Police released video of an elderly woman fighting with a Tim Hortons employee just before she died. According to police, that 75-year-old Anita Grayson there in the denim jacket, who went inside to address an issue that she had with a drive-thru order at the coffee shop. She then started berating one of the teen workers behind the counter.
And you can see her up at the counter, and then when the worker steps between them before the fight breaks out, Grayson's daughter says her mom should still be alive today.
That's the elderly lady. That's not how we treat our senior citizens. We be careful with them. We make sure that they're all right. We don't jump on them and attack them and scare them to death.
The family does say Grayson had been seeing a doctor for a chronic heart condition.
Fort Wayne police say that they understand the outcry and public concern here, but they said that the first video posted by Grayson's daughter caused a dangerously false narrative to spread.
Yeah, so a cause of death has not been released yet. The Allen County Prosecutor's Office says they are still reviewing the case.
All right, folks, we are back, and we are black here on WLTH 1370M. That is 92.7 in the FM dial. It is May the 29th, 2026. It is Friday, and 7:45 in the PM. So that means that in about 15 minutes, I'm going to have to get out of here before Dr. Williams comes in with the 2x4 and starts kicking me out personally. Yes. But as you heard in the intro, we just had a situation at a Tim Hortons restaurant in Fort Wayne, here in the great state of Indiana. According to the Fort Wayne Police Department, Anita Grayson, a 75-year-old woman, went into the restaurant to complain about a problem with her drive-thru order. Police say she started arguing and berating a 17-year-old employee. A 20-year-old shift lead reportedly stepped in and asked her to leave. Investigators say that the confrontation escalated when Grayson tried to move towards the younger employee. Police allege that the shift lead put her hands out to block Grayson, after which Grayson shoved and struck the employee, leading to a fight between the two. Authorities say surveillance video showed hair pulling, scratching in both people, ending up on the floor before other employees separated them. After the altercation ended, Grayson reportedly sat at a table and spoke on her phone. Roughly 10 minutes later, she collapsed and became unresponsive. She was taken to a hospital and later pronounced dead. Man, the reason I want to do this story is something that I've noticed recently about our society that we currently live in. I grew up in the 90s, the 2000s, being taught that if old people are wrong, you just let them be wrong. Don't be disrespectful. You just let them be wrong and be as respectful as possible. Watching this video, I've noticed that we're seeing, and I think a lot of this has to do with our culture with social media and everything, where you have a certain, I think, arrogance and narcissism amongst younger generations, where you have these younger people who don't view our society as hierarchical anymore. I grew up seeing society as hierarchical on some level. There were adults and there were kids. Now, again, does that mean that I may not have had a smart mouth here or there? Or I might not have, talked back a little? Fine. Yeah, sure. The idea of actually hitting an old person or even an adult, getting into a fight with an adult when I was a kid, was just beyond what I thought was even possible. I think I've talked about this on the show at least some years ago. When I was 17 years old, I was going to Emerson School for the Visual and Performing Arts right down the road here on 7th and Carolina. And a police officer, I got into an altercation with the police officer. I was coming in from outside, and I took my hat off. Too late, though, because you weren't supposed to have your hat on inside the building. I started taking my hat off as soon as I see the officer, because I realized at that point, oh crap, my hat's on and I'm in the building. And so I take my hat off quickly as I see him reaching for it to take it. I'm like, it's cool. I took it off. You know, we're just coming from outside. We got our winter coats and winter clothes on. So at this point, that was apparently offensive to this officer who just took me in the classroom and beat the crap out of me, right? Now, I didn't throw any punches at this police officer whatsoever. None. Okay? Because the idea that I, as a 16, 17-year-old, would get into a fight with an adult was just beyond me. Even if he wasn't a police officer, even if he was just a teacher. The idea that I would throw punches at somebody who was my senior just did not occur to me as something that I could do or would do. And even more so insane to me is when you have somebody who's 75 years old. That is grandmother territory. A lot of older people have dementia. They have Alzheimer's. Maybe they're not, thinking so straight lately. There's all kinds of things, reasons that you see a lot of older people. You see this with nurses who work at old folks' homes and like retirement villages and stuff. A lot of times they talk about how a lot of the patients, especially the old men with dementia and Alzheimer's, they forget where they are. They forget who they are. They're violent. They often throw things. They often break things. Could you imagine if you saw a video of these nurses beating up these patients because, well, he threw a punch at me first? We as a society used to have a lot more respect for people who had lived that long. Really. And I think that the type of hierarchical respect culture that we had has drastically eroded. But what I always tell people is, look, there's nothing more gangster than getting old. Okay? There's nothing more gangster than getting old. If you live long enough, you're going to see the entire world that you knew growing up disappearing right in front of you constantly. You're going to live long enough to see your parents die. If you live long enough, you're going to live long enough to see your grandparents obviously pass away. Your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, friends that you went to high school with, people you grew up with, all your favorite singers, all your favorite athletes, all your favorite celebrities, all the music you listen to, all the people who made the music that you listen to, all the politicians you voted for. If you live long enough, you will be probably the last person standing from the world that you came in here in. That is extremely difficult to navigate and live through. And I'm not saying that it's okay for an older person to put their hands on somebody or anything else. I'm just saying that if you're a young person, a young, healthy, strong person, show some compassion, okay? If that was a 6-year-old, do you think she'd be rolling on the ground with a 6-year-old talking about, hey, that 6-year-old put their hands on me first? Come on. Come on. You're a young, healthy person. There's literally no reason, zero reason for you to be rolling around on the ground fighting with a 75-year-old grandmother. Yes, she might have pushed you and disrespected you. I agree. That's when you call security, actual security, or you call the police and say, ma'am, we're going to ask you to leave. We're going to, and get the security guard. The security guard can escort the person out of the room. But what we don't do is come out of our head and start saying that it's okay. It's okay to fight with and brutalize our elders on that level. I was sickened by watching that video. Really. Sickened. See somebody's grandmother being thrown on the ground, rolling around on the ground with this young, healthy 20-year-old woman, that absolutely disgusted. I think she should be going to jail, personally. That's just my personal opinion. To me, self-defense as an argument is not viable when you're 20 years old and the person you're fighting is 75 with heart problems. Like, it's just, you know, again, if she was 10 years old, would you condone it? No. You have to understand how fragile mentally and physically a lot of people are once they get into their golden years. And we used to, as a society, do that. And I'm just seeing, like, the world we live in now, we don't give our elders no quarter whatsoever. I'm seeing people regularly talk about how they cut their grandparents off because they didn't vote for the right people, or they cut their parents off because they didn't vote for the right people. And, or they didn't, you know, they have an opinion I don't disagree with, and someday they will be gone. Probably sooner than later. That is what you're going to, like, waste the last few years that you have with your grandparents or your great-grandparents or your parents or whatever with? Really? You're going to fight about, you know, politics, or you're going to, you know, get into a fight about something like that? I mean, come on, man. We used to be a society that valued our seniors. And I'm sorry, like, to me, that whole self-defense argument does not wash with me. It really is just sickening to see somebody so much younger, so much healthier, beating on somebody who was already at the end of her life, and now some grandkids don't have their grandmother. Oh man, getting old is gangster. Getting old is gangster. Anybody can die young, anybody. But to live through all the stuff that you have to live through to get to be 75, to be 85, to be 95, to be 105, good Lord, man. I mean, I'm barely making it now. Bro, seriously. Come on, man, lighten up, man. You gotta lighten up. You can't, you gotta, if somebody that old is disrespecting you, then you walk away. That's what you do. You walk away. Have some respect. Say that they're wrong. Call security if you must. But you know, you don't be rolling on the ground with somebody 75 years old. I'm sorry. That's just beyond what I can even imagine as acceptable. Hopefully that person goes to jail. I have a feeling they won't, but hopefully they do.